Harris County happens just shy of 5 weeks from the Parkland shooting, and a couple of days before hundreds of thousands of students are expected to pack D.C. for the March for Our Lives. But while some are calling for strict gun control measures, others have been saying there are other ways to prevent tragedies like this. Matthew Larosiere is a young voices advocate. He's up late with me on the Final Five. It is good to see you, Matthew.
Good to see you, Jim.
I always hate that we're doing it under these circumstances, but you know, there's always a reaction after something happens, and more so Parkland than what we saw today. We have to do something. Something has to be done. It's a very broad statement, though.
Yeah, it sure is. And you notice that you hear these things when it's convenient. You didn't hear it that much today because there was a quick and judicious response from a school resource officer. You didn't hear it too much after the mass shooting in Texas because that was put to an end by an armed citizen. The positioning, the political use here is kind of interesting when you're having to cherry pick your tragedies to pick your points to push.
So as we said, it was one student who had a handgun who brought it to school. And my first reaction, anytime we have something like this, you know, I grew up in the age before schools had metal detectors, which it seems like a long time ago. But nowadays, I thought, okay, this kid's a student. He had every right to be in that school. Did he go through a metal detector? And my first question was, you know, not so much about the weapon, but the purposes and the ways he was able to get into the school with it in the first place. It went undetected. There have been bills out there. Maryland has some school safety legislation. There's the Stop School Violence Act that's languishing in D.C. right now. It seems like there is a multifaceted approach here, but for one reason or another, because politicians can't get their ducks in a row, can't agree on anything, we haven't seen action on just school safety, period.
Yeah, so the interesting thing here is, you know, you have people on one side of the aisle pushing for gun control, pushing for laws that would lock people in cages because they owned a weapon of a certain type, which, by the way, people prosecuted under weapons possession statutes usually have no other criminal record and never commit any other crimes, versus people on the other side that, you know, they want to turn schools into fortresses. And you can't find a middle ground there, or you can't find agreement here. Yeah, if you had a magic button and you disappeared every gun, there would be less shootings, sure. Also, if you turned schools into fortresses, like each school's an armored tank, there would be less shootings. But do we want to live in either of those worlds? I don't know about that.
I know the president, there was a lot of controversy in Florida right afterwards to talk about arming teachers. And that was part of a bill that was passed, a gun control bill that was passed in Florida, that also included raising the age to buy certain weapons from 18 to 21. That was passed, signed by a Republican governor. It's already being challenged by the NRA. Will something like that hold up in court?
Well, the interesting thing there is that federal courts have been refusing to hear gun cases for years. Should it hold up? No. You're talking about almost completely taking the Second Amendment rights of adults aged 18 to 21 for reasons that aren't really clearly articulated. And that law in Florida, by the way, was passed under tremendous coercion. That's not the type of example we should be setting for our country and how we're going to approach situations like this.
Before we go, how do you fix the situation? How do you instill a peace of mind in parents when they send their kids to school? Their kids are going to be safe. And how do you ensure that kids know they're going to be able to get through the day and learn and not have to worry about somebody coming in and shooting up the school?
Well, what I would say is, first of all, is to be realistic. Realistically, you are least likely to be shot in school compared to the street or otherwise. We do not have a tremendous public health problem with school shootings here. Schools are incredibly safe places to be. So if you want to feel safe, yes, send your kids to school. But be honest about any policy proposals you make, and remember that they'll be pointed against the millions of people who have to use guns in defense of their lives in this country every year. And make sure that you can stomach that whenever you make a proposition.
Well, let's be honest, too. Every time we talk about a school shooting, and I got a little passionate about it earlier tonight, but one more school shooting is one school shooting too many regardless. And I think sometimes to accept that as a new normal is not acceptable in the grand scheme of things. But I think how you achieve that, that's what the debate is right now.
No, I think you're right. There are solutions. Like we said, increasing school security can help.
Yep.
And having school resources officers can help, but we do need to look into, there are problems with both of those solutions.
All right. Matthew, good to see you tonight. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you, Jim.
We're back after this in the Final Five.